Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lene and I'm a knitter from Norway, and this is my knitting podcast. Here we talk about all things knitting, current project, finished project, unfinished projects, all types of yarn. But before we get into all of that, I'll show what I'm wearing, and I'm wearing my Hazel sweater by Petiteknit. I'm also sorry if the lighting is a bit annoying. The sun just peeked out. I don't know what to do with that. I hope it's okay. But here is the Hazel sweater. As I said, it's by Petiteknit and it has this awesome, really deep split. I love this. I have made mine in drops Puna, held single. I didn't hold it with a mohair, didn't hold it double, nothing. So this is just drops Puna in the color Peanut, and I think my gauge is way off and the fabric I got is definitely way off. This is just super flowy. It has like no structure to it, honestly, because this is made in just Puna, and Puna is 100% alpaca, and I feel like alpaca doesn't really hold a lot of structure. But even though like everything is wrong with this, I absolutely love it. It is a sweater I use a lot. It's a sweater I reach for if I just want a really warm sweater that's really chill to use, because it just like it hangs off the body, and since it has so little structure, it moves very well with the body. And I also really love the split this has. The split goes all the way up to my waist, but also to like the middle of my butt. So I love that. This has a lot of design features, and it's quite dissimilar to all of the other sweaters that I have. This is like definitely something else. One issue I have with it though is that it gets really short on the sleeves when I move around. It's not that the sleeves aren't long enough if I like pull on them, they are super long, but since the fabric of this is not as intended, it doesn't really have enough weight to stay as like blocked as it should be. I did block this when I was finished with it, but I didn't block it super aggressively because I find that takes just a lot of effort. So I think this could be blocked a little bit more just on the shoulder and sleeve to be a bit longer, because when I move around and I talk a lot with my hands, and then it always gets just a bit too short here on the sleeves, but I just pull them down and then it's fine. I also often like hold on it to keep it where it's supposed to be. But even though this has a lot of like issues, I do love it, and it's a really warm sweater, even though the alpaca maybe was not the way to go for this sweater for all of the other reasons. It's really nice to have a sweater in 100% alpaca, because this is such a warm sweater, even though it looks like very airy. It has a split all the way up here, so it lets in a lot of air, and I just imagine this would not be that hot of a sweater because of all of the construction details. But this is maybe the sweater I have that is the warmest, because of the 100% alpaca. Alpaca is 3 times as warm as wool, I think. And this sweater has definitely proven that to me. Even my 100% wool sweaters, or my wool and mohair sweaters that's thicker than this, they don't really come close. If I'm moving around in this, I will almost always get too warm and have to take it off, because it's just such a warm sweater. So I really love this. I was on the fence about the Hazel sweater for so long because I kind of liked it, but there was just something holding me back. I think maybe the turtleneck, because I don't have that good of a track record with turtlenecks. Often when I make turtlenecks, I feel like they're strangling me, just really tight on the neck and like keeping my head up like this almost because they're so stiff. So I think the one thing that's like super blocked on this is the turtleneck, because I didn't want that experience again, and that has helped a lot. It hangs loosely on me, and this is a sweater I love, so hopefully I'll be able to make more turtlenecks with outcomes like this, because I do really like turtlenecks for like some extra warmth on the neck, but I don't like to be strangled. So yeah, I almost want to make another Hazel sweater just with a more appropriate yarn, so you get a more like, so I can see how it is with like the right fabric and the right gauge and how it's actually supposed to look, because I don't think this is it, even though I love this. But I know that even though the fabric isn't right, I still got all of the really nice construction. I love the shoulder construction this has. It's just so many nice details in typical Petiteknit fashion, and as always really easy to follow the pattern. But I think that's me rambling enough about this sweater, but if you're on the fence, I really do recommend it. And we can move into whips. I don't quite know where to start, but I think we can go maybe oldest to newest, and then we'll start with this Eva Cardigan. This has been featured in a lot of podcasts now, and it has made some progress since last week, because it's actually back on my needles now. So I still haven't done a single stitch because I've almost run out of yarn, so I haven't gotten to do anything on it yet. But now it's actually on my needles, so if I want to just do a couple stitches, have an easy project that's mindless, just some simple raglan knitting back and forth, I have a project for that now, so that's really nice. I feel like that was a lot of progress for this week, just to get it back on the needles. So hopefully next week I'll actually get some work done on this. But as of right now, there's not really a lot to say. And then of course I have my Sunday socks. My goal was to finish this week and to at least have cast on the second one, because I've finished the first one. Because I was really excited to see how Yarn Chicken was going to go, and to figure out what I was going to do, but I haven't even cast on. This is still where I'm at. I have one sock and then these two yarns. I just was not in a sock mood any of these days the past week. I had other things I rather wanted to work on, so instead of forcing myself to knit on something I didn't really feel, I just allowed myself to wait. I'll just wait until I actually really want to cast these on, hopefully this week, because the longer I wait, the longer it is until Christmas, and these were a Christmas gift. But hopefully I'll be casting them on this week. But as of right now, we're exactly where we were last week. I did get a ton of good suggestions on last week's podcast. I could shorten the leg part by a couple of rows, or do the toe in a contrasting color, or with some scrap yarn and mohair. And I like all of these suggestions, and for myself I would definitely do it, but I have a very particular brother. Even knitting him this, I'm very unsure of if he'll accept. He is very strict about dress code. He wears suits every day. He's like very into clothes and how he looks, so I don't think he's the person to give like mismatched socks to, or one sock that's a bit shorter than the other. So for myself, I definitely do a lot of mixing and matching to just finish it with what I have. But for my brother, I don't know. I think what I could do is to frog the toe on both so they would be the same. Then I think it might work, but I don't think I can give him just 2 different socks. So I don't know yet still what I'll do, but I hope I'll at least get through these skeins, and then maybe I'll talk to my mother what she thinks, if I should get another skein or if I should do a new toe on both of them. But those 2 projects, not a lot to say. I haven't worked on them, but the next project now is the porcelain sweater, and this one I've actually worked quite a bit on. Last week I did not get to work that much on it. I wasn't really happy with how I was progressing, and that was not only because I wasn't really progressing as fast as I wanted, but I just really struggled to find time to knit on it at all with a toddler and it being color work. But this week I have really sat down and tried to figure out just what part of my day I can fit a little bit of color work into, even if it's just a couple of minutes here and there. So that helped a lot, and when I was able to like force myself to do a couple of minutes here and there, because that's not the way I love to knit. I love to like sit down and really like get into my craft. But when I was able to force myself to just sit down and do a little bit here, a little bit there, I do that a lot with my stockinette projects, but not like my big, really involved projects. But when I was able to do that, I got a ton of motivation, and then I just wanted to knit on this all the time. And when I get that type of motivation, I want to work on it all the time. It's much easier to see the parts in your day where you actually have the ability to sit down and just do 1 row or a couple of stitches, or yeah, just get in a little bit more knitting. So after I got a bit more motivated, I actually got quite a lot done. I think I was in the middle of this leaf border here last we talked, and now I'm actually at the ribbing on the body. So this went really fast, but I must say now that I've knit through all of the charts, the A, B and C one. The B one is definitely the hardest. These leaves absolutely wrecked me. After doing this color work where you knit back and forth, so I had to do color work on the purl side, I thought if I can do that, I can do anything. So maybe I got a bit too cocky when it came to this. The first couple of rows on this were fine. They're quite simple. You just have to make sure you're counting right, and I had some trouble with that as well. I think I had to rip back maybe once or twice just because I'd counted wrong. That happens with my stockinette as well when I'm separating into raglan and stuff like that. But when I got to the leaf part, this is like the part of all of the charts that's the least repetitive kinda. You can see all of this is very repetitive. You do the same thing a lot, but on the leaves you just don't. So I would try to get in a groove of, now I'm going to do this many stitches, and each time I thought I had learned a row well enough to not look at the chart anymore, I would make a mistake. So for the leaf part, I had to look at my chart all the time, which means it took way longer because my chart is on my phone, and every time I had the need to go back and look at it, my phone had locked, so I had to go and unlock it and then start knitting again. So it just took super long and kind of killed my motivation. And that was kind of where I was last week, but then I just said, get the grip, just work on it a bit here and there. And I did, and the leaves never got easy, but I finished them, and then everything got a lot easier, because after the leaves you repeat what you did before the leaves, just the other way. And then there was just a white thing, and that was really nice because when it's only white, I can knit on it during the day, just whenever, even if my son's awake, even if I'm reading to him, I can knit just simple plain stockinettes. That was really nice. And then when the night came, I was going to do color work again, and I have been trying to go to bed and not sit up all night and knit, and I've been really good at that this week as well. But the night of this chart, I did stay up. I think I stayed up until 3 a.m. both because I had found an audiobook that was so good. I just could not turn it off and go to bed. I just needed to know after every chapter what would happen next. And that paired with doing this chart, I just did not go to bed. This chart was so fun to knit. On this chart was much easier too. The only mistake I made on this chart was I counted wrong once, and I also caught that mistake really quickly, so I had to frog maybe 40 stitches. So really happy with that chart because I almost didn't make any mistakes, and that doesn't really ever happen. I always make some sort of mistake with my counting or not looking at the pattern enough or something, but this one went by so quickly. So now I'm just working on the ribbing, but I am a bit afraid that this will be a bit long. I don't really wear a lot of really long sweaters. I usually like them to stop at my hip bone here, and this is already longer than that. But it's also supposed to be an oversized sweater, so I think it will be fine. But I definitely think I'm going to do the ribbing a bit shorter. I think 7 to 8 is the recommended in the pattern, but I'm thinking 5 to 6 maybe. It's not a lot of cutting back, but I think I'm going to do that instead. I don't love long ribbing on the body anyways. And another modification I really want to make is on the ribbing. As you see, there are like borders with blue all throughout. That's like the point of the porcelain sweater. But what I thought would be really nice is to tie all of this blue back into the ribbing as well. I thought what I could do is the last row I'm going to do a ribbing, I could do that in this blue and then do the tubular bind off all using the blue, so you get, and then I think the ribbing is almost as long as these white sections here, and then you would get like the blue to wrap it all up at the bottom. I think that could be cool, and then I'd also do the same on the sleeves. I think that could just be a cool way to like tie the blue in with the ribbing as well. I haven't 100% decided because that would mean a few extra ends for me to weave in and just a bit more work, but I think it could be really cool. But I don't know if I just think it's cool in my own head and then it's not really cool, or if it is cool. But I'm leaning towards yes, that I'll just do it, but I'm going to have to measure this ribbing and see how far I'm at. Maybe I'll have to do it quite soon. But yeah, I did try this on a couple of days ago when I had just finished this border, because this border gave me so much headache. So when I was done with it, I was super proud and I just wanted to try it on to see how it looked, because when I was working the sleeves too, I thought I was doing them all wrong, because when you look at them really up close, like super up close, at least when I was working on them, it was really hard to see what they were going to turn into. I think it's much easier from afar to see that they're actually leaves, so I wanted to try it on to see if I could actually see that it was leaves and see the pattern clearly. I also wanted to see if my floats were okay. Of course, this is oversized, so it doesn't matter that much, but I wanted to see how it would fit if any of the parts of the sweater were tighter. But it's good. I mean, I can't pull on this border a lot, but everywhere on the sweater you can do a bit of pulling, so I think that's a good sign for my floats not being too tight. I can show the video of me trying it on. I was super happy with how this is turning out, and I'm still super happy now, so I really want to finish this ribbing so I can try it on with the body all done. And I'm also excited to start knitting on the sleeves. I have set myself a kind of goal of finishing this by Wednesday. It's Friday now, and on Wednesday we are leaving to visit some of our friends. My son has a friend his age there, and the mother in that family is also a knitter, so I have a knitting friend, and I don't really have a lot of knitting friends in real life. I don't know a lot of people, especially my age, that's not like my immediate family that knit. So it's really nice to be able to visit with other knitters. And she's working really hard to finish her Ingrid sweater by the time I get there, so she can show that to me. And I'm working really hard to finish my porcelain sweater before we leave, so I can show that off. If I don't finish, I'm just going to bring it, but it would be really nice to finish it, because then I can bring this as one of my clothes instead of it taking up space in my knitting bag, what I'm going to pack with my knitting. If I bring this as a knitting project, I can't bring as much of my other knitting projects, so I really want to finish this by Wednesday. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I am a bit afraid of doing the sleeves, mostly picking them up. I'm not really looking forward to picking them up where I've done color work, and also I don't know how doing color work on DPNs is going to be, so I'm just nervous about a lot of that. I don't know how much time it will take me. The one upside to it is that there will be a lot fewer stitches, so each round will take way less time. So hopefully I'll be able to make it by Wednesday. If not, it's not a crisis, but it would just be nice. So that's my goal for this week, is to finish it. And yeah, I'm just super excited to wear this. I also want to finish it this Wednesday, because since we're going to be gone, I don't know if I'll get a lot of knitting time, and this is my self-care knit of the month. I think I'm knitting myself this month, so I would really like it if I was able to finish it this month. And then I actually have cast on something new. Even though I was supposed to be working towards having fewer whips, I just could not resist casting this on. Also, I cast this on when I was still struggling a bit with my porcelain sweater and finding time, and it was just frustrating me, so I decided to just take a step back, like all the way, and work on something else. And I thought, what's better than just going back to basics? I got into knitting again because I wanted to knit for my son, and it's been a really long time since the last time I actually knit for him. So I've cast on a sweater for him now. I'm doing the Bendiks Kragegenser by Yndestrikk. The porcelain sweater is by Lene, Holm, Samsøe. I'm sorry I didn't say. But this is by Yndestrikk. I'm knitting it in tynn merino wool in a collaboration between Sandnesgarn and Klumpelumpe, and I think it's like in a olive green color-ish. I got this yarn right before Christmas, and my idea for this is that this will be maybe next year's Christmas sweater. But I just could not resist casting it on. I really like working on these sweaters, and I really wanted something mindless that was also a knit for my son, because I've been missing knitting for him, and I thought, since I was a bit frustrated with my knitting, that just going back to the basic of why I started knitting again would be really nice. So I cast this on, and this has a bit of the same constructions as, what's it called? The Elizabeth blouse by Petiteknit, if you're familiar with that. You cast on up here on the collar by doing Turkish cast on, and then you knit in the round, both sides at the same time. So this collar is like hollow, but you knit it at the same time. It's not knit on one side and then folded down. You knit both of them at the same time. That was a bit of a struggle. And I've made some mistakes on the collar, but at that point I was not willing to rip back and do it again, because I just had struggled my way through the collar too much. But on my decreases here, the decreases are stacked a bit wrong. They're not supposed to be stacked like that, but I did end up with the same number of decreases, so I thought, you know what, that's going to be fine. Even if they're not stacked exactly as they should be. I think I also prefer it the way I did it, so but yeah, this is kind of, it's hard to show, but it has a little bit of a button placket here. So after you knit the collar together, you start doing raglan increases, and you do those for a bit back and forth until you join in the round at the front, and then you do them a bit more until you separate for sleeves. And I've done all of that, and now I'm just working on the body. This pattern originally has a bit of ribbing at the bottom of the body and the sleeves, but since I'm making this for more formal occasions, what I really like to do is to do a folded up hem. So I just knit it a little bit longer and then fold it up, or I knit it until the length I want it to be, and then I do one purl row, and then since this is knit on 3.5 millimeters, I change to 2.5 millimeters, and then I do like 5 rows, and then I sew that up. So that's what I'm going to do with this as well. I think I'm getting there, but I've been looking at this while I've been knitting, and I'm like, shouldn't I be done now? I've been knitting this body is so long, and I just cannot fathom how long sweaters get in this size. This is the 3-year size, and I think it's just so long. I remember when the sweaters I made him were like this long, so it's just mind-blowing how long I actually have to knit now for it to reach the right length. This is also something I would like to finish before we left for our trip, just because it's not that far from being finished. I have maybe a couple of centimeters on the body to go and the sleeves, but I should be able to do that quite quickly. Sleeves on children's sweaters, they don't take that long, maybe a day for both. And then I would also be able to pack more of other projects. I don't really want to pack a lot of projects that are almost done and then I finish all of them before we leave there. So this is also something that I hope to finish, but the porcelain is taking priority because I really want to show that off. So I'm just working on this. This is like my mindless project when I'm doing other things. So early in the morning when we've just gotten up, right before bedtime, this is my project, and it's gotten a lot of, I've gotten a lot done just by knitting on it during those times, so we'll see where it ends up. But those are all of my whips, and I have no finished objects this week because I've been focused on the project I just cast on and other things, so I haven't finished anything. Hopefully next week. But I have a lot of plans, and these are kind of the plans I have for what to pack with me when we're going on our trip and what I want to knit before then. So of course, you know, I've talked about wanting to finish the Porcelain and hopefully finish the Bendiks Kragegenser. But also the family we're visiting, their oldest son just had his birthday. My son's friend, he turned 3 years old, and since we are going to visit right after his birthday, of course I have to have a birthday gift, and it had just slipped my mind, so I asked his mom what he wants, and she really loved the gift he got last year, so she wanted that in a bigger size, and that's, let's see, whoops, that's the teddy bear sweater by Petiteknit that I knit with a bit of modification. Instead of doing it with a teddy bear face, I do it with stripes and call it Felleskjøpgenser. So a brand in Norway, it's very farming. It's a farming store, and the whole family really loved that. And I also made a match for her youngest son when he was born. So she wanted a new one, and I actually have the yarn for it because I've been planning to make one for my son sometime in the future. So I thought I could just use this yarn to make the teddy bear sweater. I think she wanted it in a size 4 to 5 years old, so he could have something to grow into. Hopefully I'd be done by the time we got there on Wednesday, but I think I'd be kind of hard pressed to finish this and the Porcelain, but we'll see. This is just a basic stockinette sweater, and since I'm doing it with stripes, that's a bit of extra motivation. 4 to 5 years is starting to get quite up there in size. There's a big difference between doing that and doing like baby sweaters. But I'm excited. That would mean that I would use the yarn I had intended for my son's sweater for that. But they have a really nice yarn store there that it's just so nice to visit, and they also have a place for kids to play right next to that yarn store. So hopefully we'll be able to visit that yarn store while I'm there, and that yarn store actually sells drops yarn in person. So what I hope is that if I knit this and use up all of the yarn I had intended for my son, I could just buy more, probably only of this color, because I only use like 3 or 5 grams of these for each sweater, but get more of these again. That would, I'm not on the yarn ban, but that would mean that I would break my not getting any yarn. I'm trying to stash bust, but since it would be like, I wouldn't be adding to my stash, I would just be keeping it at like the same level. I think that's okay, because I don't know, I really want to make both of the kids a sweater with this, so I think that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just really lucky that they have a store which sells drops in person there. Hopefully I won't be too tempted to get anything else while we're there, but that's my plan, to also make the teddy bear sweater hopefully before we get there, so I can give it to him as a birthday gift kind of right when we get there. And then I also have another project I really want to do, and that is the chunky rib pants. The other son of the family, his birthday is in March, so I just think it would be easier if I made him his birthday gift while we were there, so I can just leave it there instead of sending it in the mail. And I asked, what do you want for him? And she said chunky rib pants, so I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do it with drops baby merino in this dark brown color, and I'm just going to double strand this. I have a lot of this yarn. This is the yarn in my stash I have the most of, almost, apart from my drops lima in the color almond, but I have a lot of this yarn, so getting to use it for that project would be nice. I'm not going to work on this before we leave home, but hopefully I'll be able to finish it while we're there, so I can just leave it instead of having to ship it and everything. I don't really love to send things in the mail, so that would be a best case scenario. So I'm definitely going to pack enough of this to finish, and since we're both knitters, I hope we'll get some knitting time, even though there'll be 3 kids. 3 kids under 3, so I hope we'll get knitting time. I hope the kids can entertain each other so we can knit. And then my last plan, and this is what I'm going to bring with me if I'm able to finish the porcelain sweater, probably going to bring it with me anyways, but I'm going to cast on Violeta Pullover by Eweknit. I've been wanting to cast this on for some time now, but I've been doing the porcelain and just a lot of other projects with all the Christmas gifts I still have not finished. But after I'm done with the porcelain, I am going to cast this on. I'm doing it in these 2 wonderful colors. I think this one is just called Pink in the Flora, and the Kid Silk is called Pearl Pink, I think. I am super excited about knitting in this combination and knitting something pink for myself. So also going to bring this. And I think while I'm there, if you go to the yarn store, I'm going to buy myself another 4mm needle, because I only have the one that the Eva Cardigan is on now, and I don't want to take the needles from the Eva Cardigan again. So I think having more than one 4mm needle just makes sense, because I use that needle a lot. I think almost all of my projects lately have been on a 4mm, so probably also going to get that. But yeah, I think those are my plans this week. I just want to knit on a lot and finish a lot. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. They are quite high goals, but also I don't have a lot left on these pieces. Most of them is just sleeves. And then of course the teddy bear sweater, I think that will be the hardest one to get done, but also I really love to work that up. I really love that way of doing the teddy bear sweater, so I hope my motivation can get me through it. It's also a bit of a drive to where we're going, so I could get quite a lot of knitting done in that time as well. So hopefully I'll be able to finish all of my projects that I want to finish and work on what I want to work on. I'm excited to see how much knitting time I'll get. We have been having a bit of warmer weather again. We are closer to 0 degrees Celsius again, so we can actually be out and about and do things outside. That has also helped my knitting time enormously, because when it was 40 degrees, negative 40 degrees Celsius, we were just running up the wall because we were just inside all the time, because it was almost too cold to be outside at all, other than to just the little walk to the car. So it's really nice that we are able to spend a little bit more time outside now, and that helps my knitting time a lot. So hopefully I'll be able to knit on what I need to knit on, but to do that I think I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and if you want to see more from me, subscribe. Bye!